Chapters 23 and 24 of Song for a Whale. Grandma said not to worry about my money in the bank. Save it for something else. This is my treat. Instead of flying into the closest airport and trying to drive 3 hours, possibly through snow and ice, Grandma's plan was to get on a cruise ship that would take us right to Appleton. We found just one ship with an available cabin and an Appleton stop, and we'd have to leave earlier than planned. How will we do it? I asked. Like, when it's time to leave, what will I tell Mom? Grandma sat back to think, then picked up the activities calendar from her coffee table. We can't tell her what we're doing exactly. Right, there's no way she'd let us go. Not while I still have school anyway, or ever, Grandma pointed to her calendar on the date we needed to leave. Look, there's a day trip to Surfside Beach. I'll tell your mom. I'd like you to join me. It'd be good for us. Think she'll say yes? I couldn't believe we were actually planning this trip. It didn't seem real. More like a game. A really fun game. Grandma shrugged. I'll talk her into it. We'll be with a group of people, and she knows how much I love the ocean. We'll be telling the truth about going to the beach anyway. We won't mention that we're going a little farther away. A little? She looked back at the computer screen and clicked, Book my cruise. Just 4,000 miles. No big deal. I smiled as I signed. Serious trouble. We are both going to be in serious trouble. Worth it, Grandma signed. I couldn't leave without saying goodbye to Wendell. When I messaged to ask if he could come over, he wrote back, not unless you have a better telescope than I do. Come check out Jupiter. Mr. Jackson let me in the front door and pointed upstairs. Great view up there. From the upstairs game room, I stepped out onto the balcony and sat down next to Wendell. He didn't have to take his eye from the telescope until I touched his shoulder. I reached down and clicked on Wendell's flashlight. He'd painted the lens red so that it wouldn't wash out the night sky and make the stars harder to see. After the visit to the junior high, I wondered every day what Wendell was doing at his own school. Maybe he was learning about the same things I was, but from a deaf teacher, or he was signing with a bunch of friends at the lunch, or joking with another student that he passed in the hallway. If I were with them every day, I could be part of that. Even if we did sign a little differently, I'd sign more like the other kids after hanging out with them more. I shook the wish out of my head and tried to refocus. Changing schools would be impossible now. Mom wouldn't let me out of her sight again after she'd found out that I'd run off to Alaska with Grandma. I still couldn't believe that Mom had said yes to the trip. I'd watched from upstairs when Grandma came over to talk to Mom about it. She kept a straight face the whole time and didn't give anything away. She was a really good actor. Before she left, she got Mom to sign a permission slip. I held my breath as I backed into my room so Mom wouldn't hear me exhale. I felt like a loud sigh of relief was going on. I looked up at the sky and asked Wendell, which one is Jupiter? See that one that looks like the really bright star? Yeah. But see how it doesn't twinkle like the stars? I hadn't noticed it before. What looked like a bright star was a solid light, not flickering like the others. If you see one like that, he continued, it's a planet. They're a lot closer than stars. It's all the atmosphere the star's light has to travel through that makes them look so twinkly. I looked through the telescope at the planet. That's awesome. He pointed to the moons surrounding Jupiter. There's Io, there's Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto. It has a bunch more, but those are the ones we can see. While he took another turn looking through the telescope, I sat back and thought about what to tell him. I touched his shoulder again so he'd look at me. I have some news. About the whale, Blue 55. I'm going to meet him after all. I'm going to go anyway. Wow, really? That's great. Your parents changed their minds about going? Well, no. They don't know about this. You're going by yourself? With Grandma. She figured out a way we could get there. If Blue 55 shows up at the sanctuary, I'll be there to see him. Wendell looked away and shook his head like he couldn't believe what I was telling him. I hardly believed it myself. It didn't seem real yet. And then what? He asked. What do you mean? I mean, after you find the whale. What do you do then? I'm not sure, but I think the song will let him know he's not alone, and I want to be there for that. Wendell didn't say anything for a while. He just stared at the sky. Maybe I'd made a huge mistake, and he was going to tell his parents, and they would tell my parents. Mom would put a stop to the trip before it started. He looked through the telescope again, then asked, Did you know that there used to be another giant planet? Another one? Yeah, in addition to Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, there was a fifth gas giant planet out there. What happened? Jupiter knocked it out of orbit. One day it got too close and Jupiter sent it hurtling out of the solar system. I looked up at the sky. Really rude, Jupiter. Then I asked Wendell, So where is it now? No one knows. Maybe another star pulled it into another orbit and that it's in that solar system now. Maybe it even has its own moon circling it. Or if it is still out there on its turn, flying past everything on the same path Jupiter knocked it into. He shrugged. I know this is dumb, but sometimes I wonder about that planet. If I had a way of finding it, I'd go. He hugged me then. I couldn't remember the last time we'd hugged, if ever. Maybe when we were little kids, I wanted to tell him that it wasn't a dumb idea at all. But to do that, I'd have to let go of him. Wendell stepped back so I could see him again. Good luck. Let me know when you find your whale. Chapter 24. Each morning that week, I tossed a few things into my backpack for the trip. Then after school, I'd stop by Grandma's to move them closer to her closet. Her set of suitcases fit in one like nesting dolls. We sat on the floor near her closet and added items to the small suitcase each day. The medium-sized suitcase had been packed with Grandma's things since the day after she bought the tickets. I'd been reading What to Pack for Your Alaskan Vacation, articles so I'd know what to bring. People forget things when they travel to Alaska. They don't pack enough for the cold weather, thinking, how can it be cold in summer? But it's a lot colder there, especially at night. Traveling on a boat is even worse. With all the wind, a good coat wasn't enough. You have to have gloves, a scarf, hat, and thick socks. Of course, I didn't have all those things living in Houston. In the corner of the dresser drawer was a pair of gloves I'd hardly worn. Even in winter, I got by with my hands in my pockets. My sock supply was made up of those thin white ones that come in 6-packs to a huge package from Target. I'd packed extra pairs so I could double up. My gray sweatsuit had a hood. That would work for a hat. Plus, my hair was thick enough to protect me from the cold, even if I went sledding across the Arctic tundra. Before I left home that Saturday morning, I threw my last things into the backpack. I gave an extra long hug to my parents before leaving to meet Grandma. Dad asked if I was okay. "Doing great," I answered, which was true. This was the most important thing I'd ever done. I was nervous, but mostly excited. "Have fun at the beach," Mom told me. "Call if you need anything." All I could do was nod for an answer before walking out the door. Maybe they would worry till I got back, but my leaving would be a relief in a way. No more explaining things for Dad. No more of him having to explain things to me. They'd have kind of a vacation, too. Tristan was in the driveway with Adam, looking under the hood of Adam's truck. That was not unusual. The truck was always breaking down. Once I leaned against it when Tristan was starting it up. It had shaken like it was running a lawnmower engine. "What's wrong with it?" I asked. "I know a long list, but what are you working on now?" "It won't start," Tristan answered. "Maybe needs a new battery." "Smells weird," I told him, "like a barbecue grill. Not in a good way." "Yeah, Adam dropped the cheeseburger last time we worked on the car. It got really stuck in there." "So what do you think?" "I think he shouldn't eat the rest of that cheeseburger if you get it out of there." He grabbed a set of jumper cables from the bed of the truck. As soon as I lifted the plastic covers over the battery terminal for him, I saw the problem. I pointed to the caked-on corrosion. "Clean those off and maybe it'll start." Adam chuckled and rolled his eyes when Tristan told him what I'd said. I didn't miss the look of the warning that Tristan gave him. "That's not a big deal," Adam said. "There's something else wrong." On any other day, I'd have grabbed the alternator wire and carried it around my back in my backpack till Adam admitted I was right. But I'd be far away from there in a few hours, and Mom and Dad didn't need this dumb truck sitting in their driveway all week. Those battery wires don't even know they're connected to anything. Clean it with some baking soda, pour a Coke on it. After Tristan interpreted that, I asked him, "Want to go get a breakfast taco? I have some time before I meet Grandma." He shook his head. "I'll stay here and help fix this. We'll go tomorrow, okay? I'm telling you, pour a Coke on it and it'll start right up." "Okay, we'll try that. Talk to you later." I almost told him right then that I wouldn't be around tomorrow or the next day or for a few days after that. But I just got on my bike and rode away. There were plenty of Mexican restaurants around, and I'd been to all of them. The best breakfast tacos were at Carlos Gas 'Em Up. One side was a convenience store, the other side was set up as a cafe. The owner, Carlos, and his whole family worked there. I ordered a potato, egg, and cheese taco, plus a small coffee, something more grown-up than my usual chocolate milk. After one bitter sip, I tossed it into the trash can, then used the napkin to scrape off the taste of my tongue. How could anyone drink that stuff? I went back to the counter for a chocolate milk. As I sat there and ate, I looked around at the people who were reading the news or chatting with one another before work. I was dying to tell someone about what I was about to do. I'd never held on to a secret this big, and it was bursting to get out. I went ahead and signed it right there to the whole room. No one would understand it anyway, so it was just letting the secret out while still keeping it. After finishing the last bite of taco, I crumpled up the foil wrapper and signed, "I should get going. Don't want to miss my flight. On my way to meet a whale." As I left the parking lot, I saw Tristan and Adam driving up the road in Adam's truck. Obviously, they'd fixed it and decided they had time for some breakfast tacos after all. I almost went back. Maybe if they saw me, Tristan would have signed something like "You were right." That was the only reason I thought about turning around. Not so I could say goodbye to him or anything. Which will bring us to chapter